Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining the Intuition Revolution. I'm Kim Chestney, and my guest today is Tim Bickerton. Tim is a senior technical program manager at Uber. Yeah, how cool is that? At Uber, where he's helping cars to drive and think like humans. He spent over 20 years managing projects and products, leading teams, and coaching technologists. He is also a natural intuitive. How about that? He is so passionate about using his talents to help teams to improve decision making and effectiveness, bringing innovative connectedness and mindfulness into the world of technology product development. I love this. So love this. Tim is also an IntuitionLab certified intuitive practitioner, a coach and mentor, and has been such a brilliant light in our own IntuitionLab community. I have loved working with him, and I am so thrilled to have him here today to talk about how important intuition is in our work and daily lives. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. It is an absolute joy and blessing to be here.
Well, I have been looking forward to this talk so much. You and I have so much in common. First of all, I feel like we're kindred spirits.
We are.
We both have this background in technology, and we're straddling these worlds and have this really sort of interesting mashup of intuition and tech and innovation and creativity and all this stuff. And I just remember when I met you, how excited I was to find someone else who is so immersed in the technology space and really gets intuition and how it can very practically apply. So maybe we could start off just by, maybe if you could tell us a little bit about how intuition became important to you, your super techie kind of universe.
Absolutely. And you know, what's interesting about that is when you think of two things that couldn't be more diametrically opposed, you know, intuition and technology just seem like there's no way the two should come together. Right? In no world do people think, oh yeah, like when I think tech and computer programming and networking, boy, intuition is the first thing that comes to my mind. We tend to think, you know, intuition being on the more creative end of the spectrum. Your artists, your writers, your poets, all those sorts, your designers.
Yes.
But intuition has a place just about anywhere. And the key there, I think, Kim, that you and I have figured out is that there's a way through this middle path where these worlds that would seem diametrically opposed don't have to be. But most people don't ever find their way through that middle path to kind of help bridge that gap. And that's something that I know that you've done. It's something I'm very passionate about. Where it manifests itself really, for me, is this notion that intuition is always there if you listen to it. For technology, we're often stuck in this world of schedules and practices and operating procedures. It's very regimented. It is not meant to be the type of world where you kind of think outside the box. We're just not groomed that way in technology. But that doesn't mean there is an opportunity to bring it in. And I'm happy to have connected with you and to harness what's happening there, because although we tend to live in this world of technology that is structured and measured, and we often think in technology, if we can't measure it, it's not real. And intuition is something that's, you know, highly immeasurable. It's feeling, it's emotion, it's all these sorts of things. People tend to discount it. And absolutely, I would say flat out, they're mistaken. It exists.
I agree, 100%.
It can exist everywhere, and a lot of that is just being open to listening to it. At technology, as you know, we meet a lot of people who are very sort of have their blinders on. They live in this very structured environment, very structured world, something that's very measured. And intuition is not that. It's much more ethereal, much more surreal. And some people can't grasp that. And I'm happy to have found you and a tribe of folks who kind of get the fact that intuition and mindfulness and all the things that we practice and learn can live with us no matter what our vocation is, no matter what we're doing. It can live in harmony alongside and doesn't have to be these opposite camps.
Exactly, right? It's that fusion thinking of understanding our right brain and our left brain are meant to complement each other, not divide each other. Yeah. And that's sort of been this ongoing problem in history for us as humans, right? We see things as being aligned with the intellect or aligned with the intuition, and never the twain shall they meet, right? But the reality is that really to have this sort of thinking with your whole mind, you have to use both sides of your brain.
You do.
Right? And it applies to work. It applies to innovation. It applies to creativity and technology and design and all of these things that we work in on a daily basis when we're working with technology.
Absolutely. People often tell me, they say, Tim, you work in technology. Like, how do you possibly use intuition on a daily basis? And one of the ways that I use it really most often is you can really use your intuition to read a room. You can use your intuition a lot when you're in these business meetings, and especially right now, a lot of folks are in lots of meetings. People are generally in lots of meetings, but we're now on Zoom and we're doing all sorts of different things that maybe we aren't used to doing and not being in the same room. But when you are in the same room, you can read the room with your intuition. You could walk in that room, you can get a sense of the energy in that room. Sometimes you can get a sense of the energy that was just in that room, right? That has just left it. And sometimes you have to be very prepared to discard that, right? Not take that with you. And other times you can walk in a room full of people and get an understanding of, okay, I'm looking around the room, I'm seeing some energy here. Some of these people don't want to be here. They might be doing something else. Some people are really into it. Clearly this person here probably did not like their lunch, and so the rest of the world's going to hear about it. It's a whole spectrum. But when you use your intuition to really connect with people in the business environment, I think oftentimes people are afraid to do that. I think they're afraid to walk into a room and not look first, but feel first.
Right.
So I always walk into the room and feel first. I'm sensing the room. First thing I always do when I try to walk in a room, and Kim, you'll completely appreciate this, is light up that smile, baby.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Oh, yes, you do. You are. I love that about you. That smile, and you are personally attest to the power in that smile.
It's one of those very interesting things. Growing up, where a lot of this intuition and mindfulness practices was sort of drilled out of us. Like I'm right in that camp, right? I remember when I was even young. I remember saying to my mother once, I didn't want to go to this thing I was supposed to go to, or didn't want to go to meet with these people or something. I was like 4th or 5th grade. I was a kid. And she's like, why? And I said, I just don't get good vibes from it. And she said, she sort of like dismissed it and laughed it off. But moving along, if you're open to those things being part of your life, they never go away, right? They're always there if you're open to them. And so knowing over time, you start to listen to feedback that you get. And a lot of times that feedback doesn't come in the form of very formal and structured ways.
Right.
It comes in the form of you listening to what the universe is telling you in certain situations. And what the universe has told me time after time after time is you can light up a room. And because you can do that, you should do that. That smile can oftentimes be the great diffuser of tension, the great diffuser of conflict. It can bring people together, and that's a talent and a power that you should harness and use and do it. And so that's one of the things that the powers and talents that I like to use is walk in that room with that smile, because that's a great way to just blow everything away, level set everything. Here's where we are. Good to see everybody. Hi, let's get started and go. And that's one of the many things I've learned over time that, through business, no one tells you do this, don't do that. These are things I've all learned just through experience.
Right, and that process of smiling really is, and we use it in IntuitionLab because it is uplifting, right? And it's uplifting for yourself. It helps you to better handle any lower energy that might confront you, but it also brings everybody else up around you, because their smiles are contagious, and then someone else smiles, and that feeling grows. And that's the domain of intuition. Then when everybody's in this high vibration place, that's when you connect with your intuition. That's when you get these ideas. That's when you're creative and you can sense all of these things. And back to what you said about reading a room, I think that that's so important, right? Especially if you're a leader, right? So this really ties into leadership. And I know that you manage a lot of people.
Without a doubt, it does. It does 100%. And, because as a leader, my philosophy as a leader and a coach is really to lift people up and bring people up, however I can do that. And using your intuition really plays into understanding the things that people need that they can't actually verbalize to you. And especially when you're managing people, oftentimes if I'm in interviews, right, people say, how do you manage people? And I said, well, a lot of times management comes in the form of giving people things that they needed but didn't know how to ask for. And how do you know that? Intuition.
Exactly. That is so true. And really, this is all sort of part of what I talk about in Radical Intuition, the book, is this intuition revolution that we're going through right now. And you're seeing this in the workplace. It's not something that's just happening within us. I mean, we're all sort of becoming more intuitive. We need intuitive skills. They're more like survival skills at this point in a world of information. But we're seeing this bleed over into the workplace, and how in technology, I mean, I remember, working with a lot of innovative companies like Uber, that you hear that, intuition sort of becomes a holy grail when you start talking about product design and you start talking about innovation, right? Because it's that secret sauce. You're not following other companies or doing what other people are doing. You're creating your own path, just like we do with intuition when we follow our calling and we follow ourselves instead of following other people. So are you seeing that too, where you work at Uber and in the companies you work with?
Without a doubt. And especially when you're working in something that is a consumer product or intended to be a consumer product, something that people are going to interact with, right? A self-driving vehicle, a web application, a toy. That's where you can gather as much research as you want and put it in front of as many focus groups as you want, but the intuition has got to be a critical piece of that. Why will people want this? If I put myself in the shoes of someone who could buy this, why would they buy this? What would they find interesting about it? What would they find offensive about it? And those are things that you can do as many surveys as you want, as many research projects and focus groups as you want, but the intuition is there to also help guide you to make that decision of, yes, I will put this feature on, I'll make this toy red because my gut tells me red is what's gonna sell. And that's the piece of it that can't be measured, can't be quantified. You gotta go with that gut.
Exactly, right? Even like marketing, sometimes you just don't know, like, or a design, you're like, oh, I gotta try this. My intuition just tells me this feels right. I don't know why, but this feels right. It makes all the difference, right? Because you gotta get out of your head. You get so caught up.
When I did marketing, absolutely, so much of it. And again, you're talking about marketing, which many people nowadays talk about is a science. And in many ways it is. But you still, at these micro level decisions, should I make this color red or yellow? Should I charge this much or that much? At some point, it does boil down to that intuition.
Right, because you're making a human connection. And when it's this human to human connection, that's how we relate on that higher level, right? So it really makes it come alive when you use your intuition. So and I think that one of the things that was really interesting to me when this all started, when we started doing these IntuitionLab classes together, and you were there, right from pretty early on. Pretty early on, and we started having these classes, and I was expecting, bringing people together to get things like holistic practitioners and yoga teachers and people like that, and we realized that in the class there were several technology people, in fact 2 people that worked at Uber, right? And you guys didn't even know each other, you like worked in different departments. And both of you guys are like amazing and have gone through the whole program, and are coaches and all that stuff. So seeing this resonate with all kinds of people is so validating for me, right? Because I mean, obviously it resonated with me, but seeing it work into the minds of the left brain and the right brain both really fits into this new paradigm of normalizing intuition, right?
Absolutely. And for people who are really buying into this new paradigm, a lot of it comes from the fact that, historically in business and industry, right, everything is so unfeeling and unemotional and dry. And we call it business, right? It's not supposed to have emotions and feelings. And we've got all new sorts of generations of people growing up who have been taught since the very young age, it's okay to feel. And it's okay to spread feeling. And it's okay to lift people up, whether that's in a scientific establishment or a business establishment or technology establishment. We're all here to lift people up. And it's amazing to see, as you've done with many organizations, how once you bring in that mindset, it really starts to just creep and tender out all across the organization. And once people understand simple things they can do to lift others up, it really changes the whole dynamic of how people work together.
Totally. I totally agree. It really brings people together,
Exactly.
I mean, and that's what it's all about, because intuition really is about that connectivity, right? And breaking down the walls, breaking down the silos on like a level of thought and also a level of reality interaction, right? We communicate better when we're intuitively connected. We're more creative and aligned when we're intuitively connected. And it's so important to have that piece that brings us together. I'm so glad you brought that up. So
yeah, and we talk a lot, a lot of what we talk about too, in business and technology in general, we talk about active listening and listening skills, right? We listen to each other, and that's a big deal. I do lots of improv as well. So active listening is a big deal with me. Always listening to other people and reacting to what they say. But there's other messages out there you have to be open to. And those are universe messages. It's okay to listen to the person that you're sitting across the table with, but you every day are bombarded with messages the universe is sending you. If you really want to hear them and see them, they're there. You just have to look and be open to it. So
true. And we had a lot of fun doing some of those exercises too, right? Yeah. Because you don't realize it. Like that's the intuition is within us, but it's also comes from around us. It comes in the people that we meet and the experiences that we have. And there's all these little ways that life is speaking to us if we just open up and give it our attention.
And you talk a lot about the law of attraction, right? And the law of how the energy you put out there, in some way, shape, or form, things start to come back to you. And I have a wonderful story that I'd love to tell you if we have a few minutes.
Oh, yes.
I recently, I'd been about my last at Uber about a year, and I was sort of thinking, getting antsy. It's when you work in technology, the job market's generally pretty good. And so you do have opportunity to jump around if you want to. Now, I'm a learner, right? I love learning new things. So job hopping sometimes is a great way for me to dabble in this and then dabble in that and dabble in that. But there's a certain point in your career where you kind of have to start to think like, all right, because when you jump, you kind of hit a reset point every time, and it takes a while to kind of build that back up. So you find your career sort of going like this a little bit because you're going places and then you're jumping back to somewhere else and then you're going places again. So I recently was looking potentially for new jobs. I put myself out there. Was thinking of going back into product management in particular and technology. I really had these wonderful 2 startups. Because I love working with startups, right? It's a great way to just get your hands dirty with lots of technologies and
absolutely
small teams. And I had reached the final stage with 2 startups, and I had an offer from one. And I've been at Uber a year. I thought I was doing okay. Big companies, especially big startups that scale very quickly, feedback mechanisms aren't the things they focus on. So I couldn't sit here and tell you I knew definitively if I was doing well or not.
Right.
In the same week, I got a job offer from the startup and a promotion at Uber and a bonus at Uber. And I was not forced, not the right word. I was torn with making a decision. Well, now that these things have happened, do I stay or do I take this other offer that's on the table, right? And very purposefully, I said, universe, this is me contacting you. You know what? I did one of my shower prayers, which we've talked about.
I love the shower prayers.
And I said, look, now more than ever, I need some kind of sign. And one of the intuitive feelings that I was really getting was the fact that do I stay and think more of a long-term view, or do I still keep thinking very short-term? And that one day that I asked the universe for that sign, I was driving in my car and I was listening to satellite radio, and I decided to just basically jump through channels that I never, ever look at. But I was like, oh, I want to see what these other stations have on. And I flipped past a station, and I flipped past it, and my intuition said, no, go back to that station. So I did. And the song that was playing was a song called Longview by Green Day.
Okay.
And that said to me, buddy, you've been thinking about taking the long view of things. This is your message that you need to stay and think of that long view.
Nice.
And that was the sign I needed that made my decision to say, all right, I've had all these different opportunities. I've manifested them. I've attracted them. I needed a sign. I got my sign. Think longer term view. And that was the message I needed. But had I not listened to my intuition, had I not started just, randomly going through the different channels on Sirius XM, and had I not listened to my intuition that said, no, go back to that station you just jumped past,
right,
and look at the title of the song on your car radio.
Yep.
I wouldn't have noticed that message.
And that's how it happens. have that click, that knowing. And that's what came along with it, right? When you read that, you had that knowing that it was a sign that was meant for you, and then it had more meaning than simply just a random song that came on. And then when you, that validation, the validation is like half of what we live for with intuition, right? The advice is wonderful. The intuitive insight that we get is wonderful, but the validations that come to us and tell us, yes, you're on the right path. Yes, you're making the right choices. Or like, no, 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 don't do this, right? It's such a powerful part of our decision-making
It
process.
really is. And when you surrender to that,
Right.
all the anxiety around should I have done this or should I have done
Right.
that, it all melts away because you know definitively the universe is telling you to do this, and the universe always has your back.
Exactly. So exactly. So let me just ask you before we go, what advice do you have for other people who are out there and, you know, who might be similar to you, might be, you know, working in business and, you know, might be a little reluctant to make the leap into the intuitive world and learn more about it? Any advice on like sort of taking those first steps into what's ahead?
Yeah, I think, you know, listen, if you're thinking about it and hearing that message, and maybe it's not somebody literally saying in your ear, go do this, but
Right.
if you're thinking about it, recognize that that inkling is a sign
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that
yes.
that it's something that you should potentially pursue and start to explore it. Obviously, you know, the programs that you have are great ways to start getting involved, right? Even if you just want to take one and dip your toe in it, and get a feel of what it's about, I would highly encourage anyone to do that. But if you have that notion where you're like, what about this? The very notion that you're even thinking about it, it's even entering your mind, is the universe telling you, you should probably go ahead and look into this and see where it gets you.
And
And
that's, yeah,
yeah,
because that's really when we talk about your calling, right? That's like a calling. And that's this part of your intuition kind of reaching out there and pushing you to grow and change and evolve
yeah.
and be more than you are. And
And really, don't be afraid of it. I think one of the things that you taught very early on in your programs is all about some of the stuff people might find a little bit scary at times.
right.
It's not scary, right? Because, you know, we're not talking about, you know, fortune telling of, you know, major disasters. We're talking, you know, and you've brought that up so many times, right? We're talking about ways that we understand each other and lift each other up with information that we're getting from the universe. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's not something to be scared of. It's something very, very positive. And for anybody that might be thinking, I don't know, you know, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, I would encourage anyone to drop in, try a class, try it, research it. It's not something to fear at all. It is something to embrace. And your life will be so much better if you go ahead and just embrace it.
So true. And that's something that everyone, as we go through these programs, agrees. Like, it's just, there's less fear, there's less anxiety, there's just better choices. And I'm not like trying to like, you know, talk things up, but that's just a reality.
Yeah.
That's just a byproduct of living with your intuition.
I think two things: don't be afraid of it, embrace it, but also understand that everyone struggles with these moments of, do I listen, do I not listen, right? I'm waiting for a sign. Has that sign not come? You know, you're gonna all go back and forth all through the spectrum of, some days you feel like you are the intuitive master of the universe, and some days you're like, I'm not getting anything.
Yes.
Nothing is working. I can't, nothing is happening, right?
Yes.
All of that is okay.
Yes.
All of that is okay. And not any one of those experiences define your experience with intuition.
Right.
It's a spectrum of experiences, just like anyone else's.
That is so true. It's so true. And the whole idea of like fear and unknowing, like specifically the fear of the unknown, right? Because that's where it all comes from, is we don't know, we don't understand, we're nervous. But getting out of your comfort zone, like that step outside of your comfort zone, is the step to growth and change. And that's what it's
And
all
I
about.
have my moments too where, you know, I'll be having a bad day and someone will say, you know, the universe has your back. And for those fleeting moments, I'll be like, does it though?
I know, right? Some days it doesn't feel like it.
Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. But no one single day like that defines that experience. You know, even on days where I don't feel as connected as others, I know that spirit guides are out there. I know that intuition is out there to help guide me. I know that there is a higher power that is out there to give me what it is I need to be able to do what I need to do, if I'm just open and listening it and looking for it and hearing it.
Right. Right. And if you look really closely and you pay attention to that dynamic, you start to realize that those days that you feel small and low are the days that you're also disconnected from your intuition. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they equate. And the days that you feel empowered and inspired, those are the days that you are connected with your intuition, right? And don't we all want to live more empowered, inspired lives?
Absolutely. And I think we talked about this a little bit before. There are different things you could do to try to raise that vibration and get in
Right.
touch, right? For me, exercise is a
Yep.
great way to do that. And it wasn't something that I had expected as an outcome. You know, there's lots of benefits to exercise, right? We're not dietitians or, you know, anything, but we all know that.
Right.
One of those unexpected outcomes was the fact that after exercising, I'm vibrating so high that I feel so much more connected to the universe. Didn't expect that as an outcome, but
Right.
boy, what a wonderful outcome it is.
Right. Like the runner's high. You always hear people talk about that, right? It's just if you mix it, you get all of those electrons and protons moving,
And
right?
vibrating, yeah.
And that's the playground of intuition in that place. When we're low, when we're sick, when we're down, when we're lethargic, that's when intuition is blocked. It can't get to us because we're down here and it's up here. And that's why I'm so glad you bring up that, you know, that the notion that intuition isn't something to fear. It really, intuition and fear, they're actually mutually exclusive. It's not even like they're completely mutually exclusive. There is,
Right.
when you have intuition, you cannot have fear, right? They don't coexist because intuition is up here. It's this high vibration. It's this connected reality of joy and love and peace and all of the things that are great in the world, and all this other junk that we have to deal with in life, the challenges that we face, and all of that is in a totally different space. And that's where fear can come to us. But when we get to that level up here where we're in our intuition, that stuff down there can't touch us anymore.
It can't. And intuition, you know, it's not about necessarily letting go with reckless abandon, right? We still have to,
Right.
you know, use our own good judgment.
Both sides of your brain.
Exactly. But, you know, you start to be able to let go of things that maybe bothered you before, or that you recognize bothered other people, right? I think in one of our recent classes, I told the story where, you know, I was with a friend of mine and she was driving and she gets such rage, right? While she's driving, she can't stand it. She can't stand, why are people so slow? Why is this person stopping? And she says to me, like, how do you not get so enraged about this? And I was like, I just let it go.
Right.
Like, just let it go. There's a trust that there is absolutely nothing I can do, and the universe is guiding this. And if the universe says there's going to be traffic for you, there's going to be traffic for you.
Right.
What are you going to do? Like, you can't make it. You can't will it to be different.
Right. And that's part of that, you know, part of the process of enlightenment is it's not just non-attachment,
Right.
It's also non-aversion.
Yeah.
So when you have these horrible things happen to you, this suffering, this traffic, we just have to accept it, right?
Yeah.
We just have to be like, yeah, okay, this is meant to be for whatever reason.
It is. It just is, right? Accept it for being just is. You apply the good or bad to that. Just accept what it is.
Exactly. So yeah, so that is really, that's the key. That's sort of the linchpin. So, well, Tim, this has been a great conversation. I love you. I love talking with you. Thank you for all of the light that you bring. And thanks for sharing all of these insights in this great conversation with all you folks out there. If you guys want to learn more about Tim and his work, you can find him on LinkedIn, Tim Bickerton. And we look forward to seeing you soon. All right. Take care, Tim.
Take care.